Welcome everyone. It's so good to have you with me this evening in the prayer space. My name is Trudy and I'm the pastor at Malvern Hills Elim Church. We would love to stay connected with you. Please do remember that we are church online. You can connect through our Facebook page or through our website. I would love to hear from you. I'd like to hear how you're experiencing prayer, what you're learning, or if there's anything that I can help you with when it comes to prayer or anything else with regard to faith and God. As you know, in the prayer space over these next number of weeks, I am getting a chance to hang out with some of my friends, those people who have really influenced me on my journey of prayer. So sit back and relax, and I do hope that each week that you will gain something new or learn something that you hadn't thought about that will be able to help you on your journey of prayer. So welcome Judy and Keith. It's so good to have you with me this evening in the prayer space. Would you like to introduce yourselves and tell folks a little bit about you and what you do?
Thanks Judy, lovely to be with you. Well, you can tell who's Keith and who's Judy. We've been married for 46 years this year, and for the past 6 or 7 years, we've been involved in a ministry called Word and Spirit, which we initiated, and it's an opportunity for us to encourage people to read the Bible in ways that will transform them.
Brilliant, brilliant. What about you, Judy? Tell us a little bit about you.
Well, hello everybody. We've got a lovely family. We've got a son, Luke, who's married to Laura, and Luke works for Tear Fund. And they've got 2 lovely daughters, Penny Ray and Megan Faye. And then our daughter, Anna Marie, is married to Chris, and they've got an art restoration business. And we've got another 3 granddaughters, and they've all got lovely names: Poppy Willow, Liberty Blossom, and Phoebe Meadow. Oh. So we're very blessed.
Well, you are both very busy, I know, with home life, but also with your ministry. So I really appreciate just you taking some time out to meet with me and we have this conversation. As you know, we've been doing a little series on prayer, and we've looked at different things over the weeks. We've looked at people feeling overwhelmed by prayer and how they can manage that. We've also looked at unanswered prayer and how to cope with that. So this week in the prayer space, Keith, I'm going to hand over to you. We're going to talk about prayer as an encounter with God. Unpack that, Keith. Help me to understand, and those who are listening, what that means. Prayer as an encounter with God.
Thanks, Judy. For me, increasingly, prayer is more than talking to God. Talking to God in prayer is, of course, a part of prayer, central to prayer, but I'm learning that it's only a part of prayer. And I've discovered that prayer is also encountering God. It's identifying those moments when God opens up a window into my world and in effect says, "Hello, Keith." It's that God-conscious moment where I haven't said anything to God, and he might not have said anything to me, but I've been aware of his presence. And in that encounter, an encounter that's been initiated by him, not by me, I think a prayer is born. And these encounters, in my experience, are often quite incidental. No words are spoken in them, but I've been aware of his presence. And I think the psalmist is working to a similar theme when he encourages his readers to be quiet and in that silence to acknowledge the presence of God. In effect, he says, hush, God's here. And since God is here, there is the encounter. Let's give it another name. There a prayer is born. So let me develop it a little bit more. Picture the scene. I'm working in my study. This is the base of where I operate when I'm in my home. And then, although I'm engrossed in my work, I hear a key turn in a lock. The front door is being opened. And I am aware that Judy, my wife, is coming in. Now, I've not seen her. I haven't spoken any words to her. I haven't said hello. But the key turning in the lock has resulted in a range of emotions and thoughts and feelings being sparked within me. And at that moment, words are not as important as the fact that in my mind an encounter has taken place. And I'm learning to see prayer like that, as those moments, those times when God says something to me, and in that process, a prayer is born. One of the most sobering verses, I think, in the Old Testament is in Genesis 28, when Jacob says these words. I'll quote him. "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it." Surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it. And that's the challenge that faces me, faces all of us, because God goes ahead of us into our lives and into our days, and he is ready to speak into our situations and to encounter us. The challenge is, am I aware of his presence? Am I listening to those words, those gentle whispers where he announces, I'm here? Because it happens more often than I realize. I'll give you an example, but it relates to the current situation, although it happened many years ago. I was in church and I remember seeing my daughter, Anna Marie. She was less than 10. She was probably about 8 or 9 years of age. And she was with her friends, and she was young, and she was vivacious and pretty and engaged with her friends, sitting with them while I was way back in the congregation. And then suddenly she saw me through the ranks of people, and she smiled. And yes, a father-daughter moment was born in that moment. But it was also as if God was saying to me, I made her the girl that she is, and I'll make her the girl that she will be and the woman that she will be. So relax. It was a God-conscious moment, a moment when God started a prayer. Only he was the one who put the thoughts in my mind rather than me addressing him in a conversation or a dialogue. And it was a time, in effect, when God had said, hello, here I am, Keith, relax. And now 30 years later, as we're about to see her after lockdown with her husband and 3 little girls, I now am living in the truth that God graciously initiated in my life. And I can think of other occasions when I've explored the Bible with other people. And as we've done that, we've asked questions of the text. And in response to our questions, God has spoken to us, not in some cataclysmic word, but through other conversations or through our thoughts or through our answers. And we've responded with words like, or wow, I never saw that before. But in those encounters, what's happened is that God has said hello to us from the Bible. And then never forget that God is desirous of remembering that we're different. And so he speaks to us differently, and he encounters us in ways that are unique to us, speaking in effect with an accent that we can recognize. So not only is he desirous of speaking to us and we respond to him, but also he chooses to do it in ways that are most personal, most unique. And whenever we say hello back to God, we've encountered him in our lives, and as a result of that, a prayer has actually taken place. But on this occasion, he's the one who started it.
Yeah, it's so good, Keith, you know, and it's so, I know there'll be people listening to this, and they'll be thinking, oh, I've never encountered God in that way. And, you know, maybe they've grown up in a tradition where they think of God as someone who's very distant and not interested in their lives. And it's so good just to hear you use those examples of how God, even that illustration, Keith, of Judy coming to the door and unlocking the door, and how you already thought, oh, there's Judy coming, and how for you and I and for Judy and for those who are listening, that God is interested, that he does want to be a part of our lives. And he is not that God that we only encounter if we go to a building, but that he wants to be a part of each one of our lives. Before I hand over to Judy, just let me share a little God moment, a God prayer that I had recently with you, Keith, and with those who are listening. I was in the office, I was working away, and I had some teaching on in the background. I was just listening to it as I was working. And in that moment, the lady who was speaking, she prayed. And as she prayed, I had one of those encounters with God. Now, to just imagine, I wasn't in church, I wasn't in a prayer position, I was working away, I was opening the post, and this lady prayed, and it was one of those moments where I just stopped, and I could feel as if God just lifted all the burdens that I was carrying in that moment, and he just took them from me. It's such an amazing God that we have and that we can encounter. Thank you for that, Keith. And on that note, I'm going to hand over to Judy. So Judy, each week in the prayer space, we have been praying together. So it'd be so good if you could just lead us in prayer. Over to you.
Thank you. Lord, it's impossible for us not to see you, for you are everywhere. In the beauty of a flower with its delicate petals and wonderful colours, to the tall and mighty trees that make us look in wonder as to how they can possibly remain upright. The wildlife you have created make us smile and say, wow, whether it's a spectacular butterfly or a majestic lion. And then, when the sky turns midnight blue, we are struck with the awesome sight of the incredible lights you have created and put into the sky. Your word tells us you determined the number of the stars and give to each of them their names. Lord, that is an amazing and beautiful thing to do. Thank you. Thank you that we encounter you in so many ways, from creation and through others. We gasp in wonder at your beauty and majesty, and we praise you for the good and great God that you are. Because of the way you look after creation with such incredible precision, we know that you are in charge of all things, and therefore we can trust you to care for us. No wonder we love you. Thank you so much that we can encounter you every day of our lives. Amen.
Amen. Thank you both, Keith and Judy, just for meeting with me and just having this conversation together. It's so good to see you both, and I do hope, well, Robert and I hope that we will see you both soon. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Judy.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.